you're anything like me, and you were born after the great year of our Lord 2000, then most likely you do not know how to read or write in cursive, and most likely you've received a letter from a relative or loved one that has some age on them. No, I'm not calling anything out over here, but most likely, that letter or whatever they were writing to you was, in English, but the handwriting was incredibly hard to read because it was in cursive. Just talking from personal experience here, but I generally, it's very hard. I can make out words and such, but I can't read, a whole paragraph in cursive. It takes me, 5 minutes to read a paragraph, trying to put together the piece and stuff. They being said, I can't read cursive, illiterate when it comes to cursive. And like I said, if you're anything, like me, born after the great year of our Lord 2000, then you probably know how to read or write cursive. And, my mom was saying something the other day, a while back, it was like, why did they stop teaching cursive in public schools? It was like, because, they don't want you to know how to read the founding documents. All the founding documents are written in cursive. Why they stopped teaching cursive, so they can make up whatever they want you to believe about the founding documents. And I just kind of, I didn't really, take it too hard. I wasn't really gonna dive into it that much. And then I read Animal Farm, and one of the topics explored in Animal Farm was, of course, why reading, the ability to be literate is so important. Why you need to read in order to recount historical facts. Also, the same topic explored in 1984, which I also just finished. It's the ability to recollect history in your mind is very prominent. I mean, you can do it very easily, but you cannot necessarily prove anything that happened in the past unless it was written down. In 1984, the government rewrites history. In Animal Farm, Napoleon, there's no way for the animals to know what actually happened because they can't read the commandments, the big commandments or whatever. They were written on the wall, went down to one, whatever. They can't read it, so it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the only way to definitively prove, the only way to, have receipts, bring receipts to the table is written history. That's the only thing that is factual. Everything else just is a construct of your mind. And the only person that can prove it's real is you. And by that definition, it's not real at all. So with that being said, the entire conspiracy here is in 2010, the U.S. government took cursive out of, the national guidelines, the national curriculum that schools are supposed to teach. They're making sure that, schools are teaching with this national curriculum. And in 2010, they took out the cursive, claiming that, keyboard and typing was more prevalent, more needed. And so that was going to be the main focus. And they shift their cursive time, obviously, to all keyboard time. And did it succeed? Yes, I know how to type. But I'm not going to sit here and say that, the classes taught me how to type. I learned how to type because all the signs were on the computer. With them, they kind of got sidetracked there. But with that being said, they stopped teaching cursive. And when you stop teaching cursive, all the founding documents are in cursive. None of your new generation knows how to read cursive. And like I said, I pulled up our article, wasn't even, looking for this, but the first thing I found was that part of the problem is all of our historical documents are in cursive. The next generation, eventually, people that know how to read cursive, they're going to die. And you no longer have anybody that knows how to read cursive except, maybe a handful of people that, studied it in their own personal time, or, somebody from their family taught them or something. But other than that, everybody is illiterate when it comes to that portion of, handwriting. And like I said, all of our founding documents, the most important historical foundation pieces to our government, to who we are as a nation, are all written in cursive. So you can kind of see where that's, a little bit of rising here. All that has to happen is the government can say, well, you might remember, that the Declaration of Independence said we the people, but it actually said I, the president. You see what I'm saying here? So it's really, you take these things for granted, but, at the end of the day, you kind of sit and think, who's to say that the government, nobody could stop them, If the government wanted to rewrite the Bill of Rights, They very well could, because it's, all in cursive. Nobody knows how to read cursive anymore. And the select few that I was mentioning, that learned on their own time or whatever, all they're going to have to do is take them out. Then who's going to stop them? Nobody knows how to read it. With that being said, it's just something to think about, unique little, little thought, just to, ponder on. With that being said, nothing too crazy. So, if you want to learn cursive, by all means, save us from our great downfall, that the United States government is going to try to consume our freedoms. But, with that, being safe and stay hydrated.